Okay. So, welcome. Hi. And here we are, Parshat Vayishlach. The portion of Vayishlach, where Yaakov is preparing to meet his brother Esau, because he leaves Lavan's house. And he still has to be afraid that maybe Esau might still want to kill him. So he wants to check out to see what the situation is. So he sends messengers to the land of Seir, the field of Edom, and he sends like a peaceful message saying, I really don't want to fight with you, I want to be at peace with you, and let me know what are his intentions. And Rashi tells us that he actually sent angels. When it says anashim many times means actual angels. And the question is, like, why would he send actual angels? And why would Rashi say angels? I mean, he usually says the Pshuto shel Mikra, like he doesn't go into deep explanations. So the reason is that what one explanation is that he was afraid that if he sent regular messengers, they might be killed. So he sent angels. And again, the angels come back and they say that you might consider yourself his brother, but he's still wants to kill you. He's coming towards you with 400 men. So beware. So of course, Yaakov is afraid there's going to be a civil war. He doesn't want to, he really doesn't want that. But so what does he do? He does three things. Okay. First, he prepares himself for defense, just in case he has to go to war. He divides his family into two camps. And he says, if something happens to one, at least we'll save the other. And then he prays, tefillah, he prays to Hashem that he should save him from Esau. And he reminds him of all the promises he made. And he also prepares gifts. So these are the three things that he does. Okay, he prepares gifts, he prays, and if he has to, he's ready for war. Now, the reason that he is so afraid, Yaakov, like you could say, why is he so afraid of Esau? Hashem promised he's gonna, you should know that Hashem made all these promises, like he's gonna keep them. And he says a very important. There's a song about it, but there's a pasuk that says, "Katonti mikol chasadim." I'm unworthy of all the mercies and of all the truth that you have shown your servant. Katonti, like, who am I? I'm so humble. Maybe I used them up. Maybe I used up all my credit, and so all this kindness that Hashem bestows on a person, we learn from this should actually make us more humble, because it's an expression of like God's right hand. He's embracing us, and he actually brings the person closer to him. So the closer a person is to Hashem, the greater his humility, because you see how you might not be worthy enough. And so this is what Yaakov says, Katonti mikol chasadim. Maybe I'm unworthy, and even if you promised my children, maybe you'll kill these and you'll give me new children. So like he has no way of knowing. So in what the first Lubavitcher Rebbe says is that by the klipa, by the opposite of the kedusha, so the greater the kindness you show a person, the more arrogant he becomes. And he thinks self-satisfaction. He thinks he was so worthy of it. And here, someone who learns Torah Hasidut knows just the opposite. It should make you humble. Anyway, so he on one hand he's preparing for a battle, but he sends this delegation of, like, he wants to give him presents. So he takes herds of cattle and camels and all these gifts he's going to give to Esau first, and he tells them to leave a space in between each um, delegation, because first of all it gives an impression of like a lot more. So he's like, wow, I just got a present, and then a few minutes later he gets another one. So it's like really, really, uh, a lot. And he tells each one what to tell Esau. And so they set out. But before the night, this evening, he brings his family across the river of Yabok. Okay, he crosses the river with them, and then he says, "I'm going back," because he left a few items. He left a few pachim ktanim, and he says, "I'm going back to get them." And so he happens to be alone when he goes back to get them, these small jars or whatever they are. And it's interesting that we learn here that to the righteous, it says, money is dearer than their own body, the Talmud says. And this is because the righteous people know that the material possessions have a spark of holiness in them. In other words, every person has like their share of nitzotzot, remember we spoke about the holy sparks that were spread out into the world. When God created the world, there was too much light and too little vessels. And so there was like shvirat hakelim, and the vessels were broke, and all these holy sparks were dispersed among all over, like came down to the physical world. And so every person has their share of sparks that they have to extract from the unholy. And so a spiritual person knows, the righteous person knows that these sparks of divine potential, okay, are his job. It's an extension of his own soul. And he knows that divine providence brought him to come into possession of these things. And therefore, he has to redeem them. It's his mission in life to redeem them. So that's why it's important for him to go back and bring them, because you would say, like, for a few little jars, you're going to go back. So this is what stands behind it. Anyway, he suddenly, a mysterious figure shows up and begins wrestling with him. So who is this mysterious figure? We are told it's an angel from heaven, and it is the source of Esau. Every nation has their source, and this was the angel with Esau's, the source of Esau trying to harm Yaakov. But Yaakov fights, and he doesn't, the angel, finally, the only thing he could do is dislocate his hip. And so when dawn breaks, the angel says, please let me go. I have to say praise to Hashem. The angels sing praise in the morning to Hashem. So please release me. And Yaakov says, I will not release you until you bless me. I want a blessing. So the angel agrees, and he says, I'll bless you, that now your name will not be called Yaakov anymore. It will be Yisrael. And the reason is, Ki sarita imamalach v'tuchal. Sarita means like you overcame, like a sar. You struggled with the angel, and you managed to overcome. And so it's interesting also that Chassidut explains to us that his struggle with Esau's angel represents the physical suffering of the galut. So when the angel of Esau injures his hip, he injured his he injures like his descendants. It says in the words of the Medrash, it says that this is the generation of Shmad. Remember, there's the cruel tortures of the Romans in the times of the Mishnah in the 1st and 2nd century, and they try to wipe out the Jewish faith. and there were all kinds of they wrote all kinds of that they inflicted the Jews with, and there were, of course, there were other generations where it was things very, worse things were done to us, and all this suffering was when we persevered. And when Mashiach comes, it says that when Yaakov came, it says he arrived whole. Whole meaning persevering all this suffering that will be in the coming generations. And he was limping. Yaakov had a limp, and he comes back to the camp with his limp. And the reason that we don't eat the gid hanasheh is because of this. This is like the sciatic nerve or somehow, where when you buy kosher meat that was kosher already, they make sure to take out the gid hanasheh, this nerve, the sciatic nerve. Those who kosher themselves have to know, like it's something you have to know what to take out. You don't eat it till this day. So now we're talking about 34 years of separation between the two brothers, Esau and Yaakov. Remember, they split up, and now 34 years go by, and it says the sun has risen. Do you remember when he came to, before he left to Chutz La'aretz, it says, Vayifga b'makom, that Hashem made the sun set so that he should go to sleep and pray. So here Hashem made the sun rise, and they meet. The two brothers meet, and again Yaakov puts his family behind him. He puts the Bilha and Zilpah, the shfachot, the handmaids, and their 4 children, and then he puts Leah and her 6 sons, and then at the end is Rachel and her son Yosef, because Benjamin was not born at the time. And Esau comes and he runs to him and he embraces him and he falls on his neck and he kisses him, and they cry. So he lifts his eyes, this Esau, he looks up and he sees all this family and wealth and everything, and he says, who are these to you? He says to Yaakov. And Yaakov says, these are the children with whom God has favored your servant. He calls himself a servant to Esau. And Esau says, all these gifts that he gave him, and Esau says, it's not necessary. I have enough. I have more than, Hashem gave me. So he says, keep it to yourself. But Yaakov insists, and he says, take my gifts, because God gave me all I need, and I really want you to take these gifts. And so he agrees. Now the question is, when the Torah mentions like his 2 wives and the 2 shfachot and his 11 sons, we don't hear about Dinah. Where was Dinah? He had a daughter too. And so we're told that Yaakov locked her up in a suitcase, in some sort of a box, and he was afraid that Esau was going to see her. She was, he was afraid that he might take Dinah. So we're told that he was punished for that, because maybe Dinah could have had an effect on him and brought him back, but because he didn't allow it, then he was punished, and Dinah fell into the hands of Shechem. So Hashem says to Yaakov, you wouldn't give her in a marriage to a circumcised person, so now she will be possessed by an uncircumcised one. Shechem is going to take her. And you wouldn't give her in legitimate wedlock, so now she's taken in an illegitimate fashion. This is what the Medrash Rabbah. What? Everything that happens is divine providence. There's nothing that happens without Hashem's consent. I mean, we have free choice, but some things are, a consequence. So now Yaakov, well, let's go back to when Yaakov saw Esau coming with his 400 men approaching. So, and Esau fell on his neck and he kisses him and all that. So the question is, it says vayashikehu. The word vayashikehu means he kissed him. and it has all these dot spots on top of it, all these dots, the word Vayashikehu. You'll see it on Shabbat if you follow the Torah reading. And the reason is, first of all, it implies that it was an exception of the rule, because he really didn't intend to kiss him. He intended to bite him, it says. but his throat turned to marble, and he broke all of his teeth.
He was so happy. Wait, he was so happy.
He wanted to bite him. He wasn't so happy. You know how Esau. It says Esau sonel Yaakov. Esau never.
There was still animosity.
There's always animosity between Esau. Also, so what was different about this kiss? So there are two different deot. One, the sages say that he didn't kiss him with all his heart, because Shimon Bar Yochai says that it's a well-known law that Esau hates. Esau sonel Yaakov. Esau hates Jacob. And this was an exception, that he did kiss him. Like all of a sudden, there was like a certain feeling of brotherhood, and he kissed him. So there are two different which Rashi brings, that momentarily he was aroused to kiss his brother, and the other explanation is that he really didn't intend to do it with all his heart. He intended to bite him, and that's what happened. Anyway, he introduces his family to Esau, and he tells him to accept the gifts. And then Esau says, let's travel together. Like, we'll go together. I'll slow down for you. And that's probably the last thing that Yaakov wanted. So he says to him, listen, I have young children. I have large flocks that they just gave birth. And like, if it's going to be too strenuous, and I don't want to push them. If I'm going to lose them, they'll all die. So you go ahead, and I'll come at my own pace. I'm going to come to Seir. So they part, and Esau he continues, and Yaakov establishes his camp in Sukkot. He said, I'm going to move at my own slow pace until I come to my master, Adoni, Sa'ira, until I come to Sa'ir. Now, if you look through the whole Chumash, you can, where did Yaakov ever go to Mount Seir? So was he lying? I mean, is it possible that he said something that's not truthful? He said, I'm going to come to you to Seir, but he never showed up. So was he trying to deceive him? It doesn't make sense. Like, why would Yaakov say such a thing if he never really intended? Like, he never really lied. He doesn't lie. And the answer is that he will come to him when Mashiach comes. It says that the saviors will ascend Mount Zion to judge the mountain of Esau. And that will be, it says in Ovadia, that will be when Mashiach comes. So in other words, he says, till I come to Seir, and he had it in intention when Mashiach comes. So he didn't lie, but it's going to happen. And then it takes another 18 months where Yaakov comes back to Canaan, and he is in the camp near the city of Shechem, and he comes whole. And the reason it says whole, for a few reasons. One, that his limp was over, like he was healed. He didn't limp anymore. He was whole in wealth. He had everything he needed. He was very wealthy. And even though he gave so many gifts to Esau, it didn't affect him. And he was whole in his Torah, because he didn't forget anything that he learned in the house of Lavan while he was working. He was actually learning, and he didn't forget anything about what he was learning. So he was whole in every sense, physically and spiritually. And then he purchases a piece of land, and it says he paid 100 ksita, which is some sort of coin that's international, that could be used everywhere. And this is one of the three places that we mentioned that no nation could come along and say, you stole it from us. They were actually paid for. Remember, the first place was the cave of Machpelah, which Avram bought. And the second one was Shlomo, the site of the Holy Temple. And the third one is the tomb of Yosef in Shechem. It says that in Hebron, Avram paid 400 pieces of silver.
Mm.
And the temple, David HaMelech, he paid Ornan for 600 shekels of gold. And here he bought the piece of land for 100 ksita. Here Yaakov pays for Yosef's tombstone, for the place where he was going to bury him. He also builds an altar because he wants to thank Hashem for returning him safely to the Holy Land. And now comes the story, while they're in Shechem, comes the story of Dinah. Dinah, it says, is the daughter of Yaakov and Leah. And she is very outgoing. She wants to go and explore the neighborhood, to meet new friends. And Shechem is the son of Hamor. He's the prince of the land, and he rapes her. Now, Dinah comes home and she tells her family what happened. She tells her father, and Yaakov decides to wait till his sons come back from the fields. They were tending the flocks in the field. Now, when the brothers return, who do they meet? They meet Shechem and Hamor. They came for a courtesy visit, with a proposal. And he wants Dinah. He wants to marry her. And so they come to suggest, like we could integrate, our family and your family, and it would be good for you. People, you'll gain princely recognition, and we'll pay you. You'll have a lot, it should work out for both sides. So Yaakov's sons are like furious, but they hide their emotions, and they say, okay, we'll agree to this proposal on one condition, that all the men of the city circumcise themselves. And so Shechem really wants Dinah, so he convinces the people of the city to accept this condition, and they all get circumcised, and it's the third day after this mass circumcision. And remember, we learned that on the third day it's the hardest.
Mm.
The third day is where Avraham, after his circumcision, was sitting out at the tent, and Hashem came to visit him. Third day is always the hardest. So the two sons of Yaakov don't say a word. They take their swords and they kill all of Shechem, Hamor, and all the other men. They take the women and the children captive. Now, we're talking about two sons of Yaakov that are age 13. They're like young boys, they were just bar mitzvah. The younger of the two was Levi, Shimon and Levi, right? He was exactly 13 years old at the time. And the Torah refers to him as a man. And from here we learn that at age 13, you're considered a man. Okay? Baruch Sheptarani, you become a man. And he attains his manhood at the age of 13, becomes mature officially. And he is bound to the commandments. Like till now he's under his father's wing, and now it's up to him to keep the commandments. So first of all, the question that rises here is like, it seems sort of inappropriate to learn about manhood from this situation. Like, why here would the Torah teach us about the bar mitzvah, the Shimon and Levi, what they didn't seem so mature. And actually Yaakov tells them, this was pretty irrational or irresponsible, and it's sort of questionable, if you did the right thing. Even though, so why here would the Torah choose to teach us the age of reason, that you become mature and responsibility and commitment to fulfillment of the mitzvahs, dafka at this, situation where they actually killed a whole city? But Shimon and Levi answer Yaakov and they say that the situation that prompted their action didn't allow the luxury of rational consideration. They said that the integrity of the Jewish people was at stake, and the brothers of Dinah could not think of themselves at that point. They didn't think of the jeopardy of their own lives, that they're putting themselves in jeopardy, or their spiritual selves, or whatever it is. They had an instinctive reaction, came from a very, very deep place in their inside, in their souls, deeper than reason, deeper than self-consideration, and they did it for the sake of the integrity of the Jewish people, to save, you know, and and they weren't punished for it, actually. So this is what the message that the Torah wants to convey, is that even when you're establishing the age of reason and an obligation of mitzvahs, it's pretty rare that a person is called upon to act like Shimon and Levi did. But it's not the norm, right? But if you're talking about the norm, it's forbidden. But the essence of their actions should permeate our rational lives, and our every mitzvah should be, say, infiltrated or saturated with self-sacrifice and depth of commitment. And this is what motivated the brothers of Dinah. And from this, I guess we were supposed to learn. They actually took Dinah out of the Shechem's house. They actually dragged her out. She didn't even want to go. And the reason that she didn't want to go out was because she was so embarrassed. And she said, like, where am I going to carry my shame? Who would even marry me? And it says that Shimon swore that he would marry her. And that's how they convinced her to go out. And he married her. This is what the Medrash Rabbah tells us. Shimon, her brother. So they all married brothers and sisters. It wasn't from Reuben and Shimon. They all were born with twins. Each one was born with a twin, and so they married each other. This was before Matan Torah, so. Yaakov was afraid that all of Canaan would be against him, but they said they couldn't remain silent after such a deed was done. Like they had to react, and so they did what they felt was the right thing.
She had the baby. She had a child.
She did. They say it was Koresh, who later helped them build the Beis Hamikdash.
Baby from Hamor,
from Shechem. Yeah, and they also Koresh. I think that's.
Isn't there a story of that? I don't know if it was Dinah's baby was sent down to Mitzrayim.
Yeah.
And somebody Yosef.
Osnat, and he married Osnat.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah, it was Osnat. Right. Okay.
Yeah, there's different.
Dinah has a daughter too?
It could be that it's her daughter.
From
I don't know. There are different medrashim.
Right.
One of the medrashim are that Osnat came from Dinah. Okay. Now Hashem appears to Yaakov and he tells him, go to Beit El. This is where Hashem appeared to him when he ran away from Esau. And he says, settle there. And he remembers that he made a vow that he's going to build an altar at the same place when he comes back. And so he tells everybody, purify yourselves, prepare to ascend to the holy place. And so there comes their journey from Shechem to Beit El, passes peacefully. And it says that people might have seen them as invaders or conquerors, but they were struck with the fear of Hashem, and nobody harms them. So they were able to just, go through. Anyway, he builds an altar in Beit El. And Hashem appears to him and he blesses him again with many descendants. He's going to inherit the land. And he sort of reaffirms the renaming of Yaakov. His name is Yisrael, the name that the angel gave him. And he sets up a pillar. He pours wine on it. He anoints it with oil. And this became, this was the altar in Beit El. The last thing in the parsha is Binyamin being born. So Yaakov leaves Beit El and he continues on his journey through Efrat towards Kiryat Arba because he's on his way to his father's home in Hebron. And on the way, before he reaches Efrat, they stop the caravan and Rachel goes into labor and she gives birth to the 12th son, the youngest son. It's a very difficult birth. Binyamin is born, but she dies in childbirth. While giving birth, she dies. And Yaakov buries her on the road between Yerushalayim and Hebron. He puts a monument there. And this is the road to Beit Lechem. Now, what was the reason for burying Rachel at the roadside? And we're told that Yaakov, he foresaw that all the exiles from Jerusalem would pass through here. And he says she might pray, she's going to pray for her children. And this is what we know. It says in Yirmiyahu, Kol berama nishma nehi bechit amrurim Rachel mivaka al baneh. She cries for her children, and her cry is answered because there's a medrash that says that everybody came before Hashem and asked for mercy, and Hashem didn't. In certain bad times. Until Rachel comes to Hashem and she says, whose mercy is greater, yours or Basar Vadam? She says, I gave up my simanim for my sister. I put my sister under the chuppah instead of me. And I had mercy on her, and you won't have mercy on your children. And that's where Hashem says, you spoke well, and the shavu banim legvulam, he says. And so that's why she's the one who's on the Em HaDerech, and she's the one who's praying that she's weeping for her children. Don't cry, Rachel, please don't cry. Wipe those teardrops off your eyes. You know the song? And she's crying for us, yeah. So finally he reaches Hebron to his father Yitzchak. And the Torah tells us that Yitzchak died at the age of 180. And even though we know he actually passed away later, like he passed away at the age of 180, but the Torah tells us about it now. He actually passed away after Yosef was sold to Egypt, after the brothers sold Yosef. Anyway, so the last chapter of this portion lists Esau's family through the generations, the head of the clans and the kings who descended from him. And the Torah tells us that Esau left the land of Canaan because of Yaakov. So by doing so, Esau, in effect, he's sort of acknowledging that the inheritance, the land of Israel that was promised to Abraham and Yitzchak, is destined for Yaakov and his children. So that's like, and he leaves. This is the end of the portion. I want to take this opportunity to mention that today is Yud Dalet Kislev, which is the day that the Rebbe got married, day of his wedding. And this is the day that the Rebbe said, I was connected to all of you. So it's like a very special day. And Kislev Bichlal is has so many days of light. We had the Tet and the Yud Kislev, where the second, Dov Ber, the Mittel Rebbe is called the Mor HaEmtzai, the second Rebbe of Chabad after the Balatanya was freed from prison on the 10th. He was actually also, um, uh, they, tattletaled on him, and it wasn't because he was too, again, this was like so much kedusha in the world that they were held up in prison. And he, they convinced the police taking him to prison to treat him like an important person, and they did. They actually did. And so on the way, he would stop off, and he would say Torah. He actually took the first Rebbe's, the Admor Zaken's Torah, and he expounded on it so much more. And uh, and in depth, he was like very deep. And so he gave Torah talks on the way. And then when he came to before his imprisonment, actually, they said that he must have bribed the police that are taking him, and so they suddenly changed their attitude, and they put him in prison. And nobody, he only had like 3 people that were allowed to bring him food, and nobody really knew what was happening. The year, he was freed from prison on the day after his birthday. He was born on Tet B'Kislev, and he was freed the day after his birthday. But a year later, he was only like 54. A year later, on the same day that he was born on Tet B'Kislev, he passed away. So they were originally going to celebrate the day later on Yud Kislev, but he passed away the day before, so they were in mourning. And that's why Yud Kislev is not such a known holiday like Yud Tet Kislev, because he passed away the day before. They didn't officially have a chance to celebrate. And so that was like, turned out a day of mourning. In any case, we're coming close to Yud Tet B'Kislev, where the first Chabad Rebbe was freed from prison, and he was 53 days held in prison. And we know that there were 53 chapters in the Tanya. He's the one who wrote the Tanya. And so there was a kitrug in heaven, whether he's spreading such deep thoughts of Hasidut, and it wasn't meant to be, like so easily accessed. And here it's an interesting story, is that his daughter Dvorah Leah, she knew that it was destined in heaven that he was going to die that year, and that was it. And then what would we do without this the Hasidut? And so she decided, she called together 3 Rabbanim, and she said, "Will you do what I ask you to do?" And they said they had no idea what she was going to ask, but they figured, she's a very special person. Okay, she's not going to ask us to do something that wouldn't be right. And she made them promise, and she said, "I'm giving my life up instead of my father." And they had no choice but to agree to it. This was like a bet din. And so Erev Rosh Hashanah, before her father could wish her K'tiva v'chatima tova, she quickly blessed her father, L'shana tova tikatev v'techatem, and she passed away a very short while later. And she left her little son, that Tzemach Tzedek was the 3rd Lubavitcher Rebbe. He was a little boy, and she just asked him to please raise him, and he actually raised his grandson, and he became the 3rd Lubavitcher Rebbe.
So how old was she?
I could look it up, I'll let you know, but she was young, and well, I don't know exactly. I'll let you. Yeah, and she there's actually a whole. The dates of when she was born. And in any case, so we owe her this Chassidut is owed to his daughter, and so the Tanya, once he was freed, so like he said, "Am I gonna? So should I stop teaching?" And they said, "Once you started, go ahead." He got permission, Mishamayim, to continue teaching this Torah Chassidut. It's like the example is always given. The king has this crown, and in his crown is like this special stone that's very precious. And he finds out that his son is sick. and all the doctors cannot find a cure. And they say the only thing that could cure him is if you take out this special stone from your crown, you grind it up, and maybe a drop will go into his mouth. Is it worth it? For sure. He's going to take out the stone and he's going to grind it, and he'll do it if there's even a chance of saving his son. And here the parable is given because maybe this Torah Hasidut will bring back one of Hashem's children to the right path. And so it's worth having it printed out and spread all over the floor. Even some of it goes, to waste for the chance that it might. And we see what it does. We see what it does to these young, all tattooed and rusted and all. And they suddenly are aroused from inside. Like it happens. The Hasidut has the power to arouse the neshama. And so Yutet Kislev is a very big day. It's like Rosh Hashanah LaChasidut, it's called. It's like a new year of Hasidut.
What year was this in the secular year? What year did this event happen?
Okay,
If you know.
I think it was like in 18, I can tell you exactly. Today we have it, Yutet B'Kislev.
This is the year that the Tanya was written, like Dafka that year, like that during that 53 weeks, or around in his lifetime. It was.
1 second. What year was the? No. Okay. Shneir Zalman of Liadi. Okay, what year did you guys? It happened in 1798.
1798.
Yeah.
Okay.
Rosh Hashanah of Hasidim.
And that's when he wrote the Tanya, or
He-
did it after he was released. He said he was there for 53
years.
53 days.
53 days. Oh, 53 days.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sorry, what was the date?
It was 1798. And he was born in 1745.
I want to know what it was
Oh, and maybe now we can figure it out. Yeah. Okay, so this was the year, it was the year of 1798 that he was arrested and taken to St. Petersburg, where he was thrown into prison to face trial for high treason. And you know that while he was in prison, the story, did I send you the film of the bar mitzvah, my grandson's bar mitzvah, where the story of Vayeka, they play out the story of Vayeka, which happened in prison when the previous rebbe was in prison. Somebody came, they heard about him, and they came to visit him incognito, and he said to him, like, can you tell me why Hashem said to Adam Harishon, like, Ayeka, where are you? Didn't he know where he was? And so he answers him and he says, Hashem asks every Adam, Ayeka, where are you? And then he mentions this guy's age. When you live this and this amount of years and you do this and this thing and this thing, and he mentioned like all the things that this guy does, and there was no way, like, he was taken aback. He says he has to say, where am I in my life? Did I do what I'm supposed to do? Am I on the right path? And this is a question that everybody is asked. So
Where are you? Where
It's
you're spiritually?
where are you standing? Yeah, where spiritually, like where are you situated? And okay, so here it says, after the first attempt, the extreme opposition against Shneir Zalman false charges, he was brought to the Russian capital in prison, but he was cleared of all guilt and he was released. And then during the war between France and Russia, okay. His weakened body. Anyway, he died on the 24th of Tevet in 1812, and he's buried in Hadich near Poltava. in Ukraine. They built it up nicely. I've been there. And then when he was debating where should he go. Should he go to Vilna to study with the Gaon of Vilna, or to Mizrich where he'll learn how to pray?
He was born in Ukraine.
He was he died in
He
Ukraine.
died. Where did he die?
Liadi, Shnei Zaman of Liadi, which is I'll soon tell you 1 second. So anyway, he was debating should he go to Mizrich or should he go to Vilna. So he says like I can't do both, and he says like this: to learn, I know how to learn, but to pray, I would like to learn how to pray. So when he came back and they asked him, what did you know? There were all these this opposition to the Hasidim. So they said to him, so what did you learn in research? And he said, I now know who Hashem is. And they laughed and they said, everybody knows who Hashem is. And they called the maid. They said, he says she believes in Hashem. I know Hashem, like da'at is something that's anyway. So what you asked me, he had 6 children.
Shnerzalman.
Yeah, he had 6 children. Okay, so what was it that we wanted to know?
And the boy on the other.
Okay, so
What
Do
that
you know how old she was?
Yeah,
Mhm.
what age?
should be easy to find out. And